with your success from, your DJ battles back in the day, why'd you decide to jump back in the ring with Red Bull?
Well, first I jumped in the ring with ITF.
Okay.
Yeah. I came back 2005.
Sure.
For ITF. And that's a better story. That's a funnier story. Because, like, the whole time I was doing Blaze, and you remember, like, I was national champ. I was winning all these titles, and I was kind of like in the turntable scene at that time, I was the gun. I was the guy who was going to just murder everyone. And then I just bounced. And everyone was like, oh, he doesn't want to do it anymore. He's given up, or he can't do it anymore. That's when it turned. That's when the scene kind of was like, they went from supportive to non-supportive. It was kind of like, he can't do it anymore. He doesn't know. He's kind of fallen off. And I didn't fall off. Like, I just don't want to. That wasn't my goal.
Yeah.
Like, my goals have changed now. So I was still in the studio banging out juggles and scratch routines. I was still, like, hungry as all. But my hunger was never for battling. It was just for being creative. Like, I got routines for man, I could do, like, DMC every weekend with a different 6-minute routine. I'm like, I've got so many routines and they're all crazy. But that's the focus for me was just doing stuff that's creative that I enjoy, not having to compete for it. You know what I mean? Like, so it was funny. So for the years, it was kind of like, it's like, oh, he can't do it anymore. He can't keep up with the competition now, and it had all that, right? I was like, all right, cool. 2005, I had enough. I was at that point where I was like, okay, cool. And then ITF kind of sprung up, and my name got dropped into a conversation on a forum, and it was just everyone went in. It was like, nah, he can't. He couldn't. That's why he doesn't enter anymore. He can't do it. It was like one of those negatives. Right. And so a week beforehand, I was like, cool. If that's how they want to be. So I went in my thing. I looked. I was like, cool, I've got heaps of routines. So then 4 days before the comp, I said, I'm going to enter. So I told KC, DJ KC, I was like, I'm entering. He's like, oh, okay. Didn't tell anyone except for him. I showed up to ITF. Everyone thought I was there just as a judge or something, as a guest judge, and I was like, "No, I'm here to compete." And then I remember, this is funny. There was like, there was a lot of DJs. I remember, like, we were doing the pulling out your name thing where you're like, who goes on first and who goes there, and it was like so many guys like sitting around, like, oh wow, there's a lot of competitors. In case like, yeah, there's a lot of guys. And as soon as they didn't know I was there, they knew as soon as my name got pulled out of the hat. They're like, oh shit, he's here to compete. He's not here just to hang out and watch. He's here to compete. And then literally 5 minutes after, I remember this clearly. I was just walking around at the club, and Casey kind of pulled me up and he's like, hey man, just want to let you know, like, 6 or 7 guys have already pulled out. I was like, whoa. What? He's like, yeah, as soon as they found out you're in it, they all pulled out. I was like, why? Everyone's been talking about how I can't keep up and how I can't do it anymore. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, cool, I don't care. I don't really care. I'm just here to prove a point that I can do damage. And then it was kind of like a win-lose situation. This is where things turned for me in the competition stage, because I hadn't been competing for 4 years, or 3 years. So I was like, okay, and the stigma was I couldn't keep up, and then I was going up against like heavy dudes like J Red, Perplex.
Right. I've interviewed Perplex.
Yeah. Forget who else. There's some others, but like heavy hitters, man. Like guys who have been current for the last couple of years and really doing well. Like, and I think Perplex was like a national DMC champion at the time. I was like, all right, cool. Like, okay, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out like getting slaughtered, at least by heavy hitters. They're here to take me out now. Like, I'm sure they were there to win their shit, but I think me being there, the focus would have been like, these are the guys now that are going to end Samrai right now, because he hasn't been in it. He hasn't been doing it. And with every battle, it was just like, where I thought I was going to get murdered, I was using my easy routines against these heavy hitters and just annihilating. And I just got to that point where I was like, I remember after the first battle, I think it was Perplex, and it was like an easy win. I was just like, that shouldn't have happened. I just destroyed the national champion, like without breaking a sweat, which is, like, at the time you think like, oh man, the national champ's I'm gonna get murdered.
Yeah.
And I remember like standing on I walked off and I stood at the top of the stage, on the side of the stage, because then there was like this little where all the DJs stood at, and I was just like, unless you've come here to beat me, and you're gonna beat me, then don't step on the stage. Like, don't
make
even
the public
bother.
announcement. Yeah.
Don't bother battling me unless you're gonna beat me. Like, don't waste my time.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of was like a bit like, oh shit, I either scared them in a way and made them shook, or and then every guy that came up was just like, really, is this it? I thought I was, you guys are saying I can't keep up, and I'm taking the mickey out of guys who are heavy hitters. And then it got to the final against J-Red, and I did my first routine, and then he did his, and I was like, is that it? Is this is what you guys have been like, antagonizing me with this? You can't keep up. So I pulled out a turntable. I was like, this is how easy it is for me to win. I'm gonna just win using one turntable, which has never been done. Ridiculous notion. So I just grabbed the turntable. I handed him one turntable, and he's like, "What are you doing? Is it broken?" I was like, "No, I just know I can beat you with one. Like, this is how stupid this is. I can beat you with one." Like, and I ended up winning. It was just an onslaught, and I was just like, and I know people might take that, not in a humble way, but you gotta understand. Back then, battling, you could be a DJ or a turntable set that called out people and said, like, I come from an era where you'd roll up on someone and go, "You're whack," or you'd go online and go, "You're whack." In this day and age, you can't. It's a
politically correct type thing.
It's not politically. Yeah, it's not politically correct. If I went out there and just said, "Yo, this dude's whack and this dude's whack and this dude's whack," battle me if you feel different about that, I would get murdered online. Social, they'd be, you're not humble, and you're big-headed, and you're arrogant. It's not arrogance. You've got to understand, and people out there got to understand that that generation that I came from, you had to be that. You had to talk it up.